iPad in the classroom. I'd like to thank, I've got a number of people from the Franklin Academy, which is where I work. Also Kelly Walsh with the Emerging Ed Tech to help us put together all the pieces of this and make these 2 days maybe unmatched for what you can find with teaching and learning with the iPad. I have a couple of housekeeping things to put together for you, and then we'll turn it over to our first keynote here for the welcome. The paper's in the folder. Make sure you've taken a look at the green piece of paper. This tells you about how to read the program. Also, joining the Edmodo groups. We will be using Edmodo to help disseminate information for all of the sessions you choose to attend. And this morning's keynote, for example, will be on the conference main page. If you look on the side that tells you about reading the program in the upper right-hand corner, there is a join code for the main conference. The keynotes will have things placed there for you to review. We'll also have, and I think I've already placed in there, a folder that will contain the CEU form. So you can use that to print off, check off the sessions you attended, and turn that in if you need it. There's also copies of the schedule. And the QR code on the front of your folder will give you an electronic copy of all of these documents if you'd rather just have it on your iPad or on your phone, whichever is fine. Also want to tell you that on the back of your name tag, there should be a number. We have a number of giveaways to do. These will be done tomorrow. Around lunchtime, we'll run these and then set them out for the afternoon break. I have giveaways from Kidspiration apps, Book Creator apps, Write About This app, iTunes gift cards. So we'll use random.org and run some numbers, and we'll lay out those certificates for the people who were selected out on a table out there during the afternoon break tomorrow. But the numbers will correspond to the ones on the back of the name tag. If for some reason you don't have a number, just see the check-in desk there and they can make sure you get one. You can also follow the latest. We'll be working to tweet out things, again, the hashtag TLiPad, so you can dial that in just to get the latest announcements. And conference survey, that will be posted on the main site as well tomorrow. So a very brief survey. I really appreciate the time you take a few minutes to do that, as it'll give us a bit of feedback as we look to the future, wanting to do some more conferences similar to this. You'll also notice as you're here and around the different sessions, there's a number of students. They have sort of a red name badge. These students are predominantly students from the Franklin Academy. They know the iPad very well. They've been involved in our implementation of a one-to-one for, we've done this since 2010. And so if you need help joining Edmodo, they all know how to use Edmodo because they use that every day at school. If you need any help with your iPad, with joining, network issues, check in with one of them, grab one of them and sit down with them and see if they can help you with what you need. Certainly, any of us here presenting will do our best to help you as well. And a couple of things to keep in mind in general when I look at a conference like this. In this room, we have people who represent kindergarten all the way through higher education. Different jobs, different responsibilities, different grade levels, different curriculums, different whole range. I mean, it's the broadest spectrum we could about have. A couple of things to keep in mind when you go to these sessions. Think about how what's being shown can be scaled up, down, stay the same, depending on your area. Part of the thing about using an iPad, and I think the beauty of it, is a change in the way you think. A type of thinking that opens your mind to what would the possibilities be with these particular applications, with these practices that we're demonstrating, and seeing how that can influence and enhance the teaching and learning in the classroom. If you have questions or say, well, how can I make this work with my second graders, or how can I make this work with my eighth graders? Ask any one of those presenters. If they don't know, ask another presenter. But we have enough representation across all the grade levels here that somebody can give you some good information. And again, if you need any help locating those people, just let me know. The other thing I will open up for an opportunity for you. I think Kelly and we're going to try and, they have a manager's reception here that starts at 5:30. We're going to try and be down there for that about 5:30 to 6:30. If you're thinking of something across the day and you don't get an opportunity to hunt one of us down, drop by there and just sit down and talk to us for a little bit, and we'll try and answer those questions that come up sessions that you'll be visiting. Most of all, enjoy the next couple of days, and there'll be a lot of information, maybe a little bit of overload at times. But take it all in and then spend some days processing and seeing where you want to go from there. I'd like to introduce our welcome keynote, Kelly Walsh. He's the Chief Information Officer at the College of Westchester in White Plains, New York. He is also teaches there and as an adjunct faculty member, and he has founded the Emerging Ed Tech website. And I encourage you to go there. I know for years it's been a real steadfast location for me to go and find good quality information about technology and education. While the site is not exclusive just to the iPad, many of those principles and feature articles he has really applies to a device like the iPad. He has produced a number of books and writings over the years. The most recent one, Flipped Classroom Workshop in a Book. I'd encourage you to take a look at that. It's definitely something that you can integrate in with the iPad and what you're doing. He's also worked together a 4-week online training course for those interested in flipping the classroom and how to do that with great success. With no further delay, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Kelly Walsh.
All right, well, thank you very much, David, and thank you to the Franklin Academy for allowing me to participate in this. And we're really excited to have everybody here and have this third conference going, and participation keeps coming in strong. It's an honor and privilege to work with people that are excited about education and about doing these things. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. This morning I'm going to talk about the power of instructional technologies. First, a little bit of a downer in a sense. We have challenges in education, and I think we all know that. And the point that I want to get across is that there's more and more evidence coming to light saying that with methodical implementations of instructional technologies, we can help to address some of these challenges and improve on them. So again, Kelly Walsh, Emerging Ed Tech, I encourage you to come on out. Dave hit that on the head, so I won't dwell on that. At the College of Westchester, I am a adjunct faculty member and the CIO. We're very excited about celebrating our 100th anniversary in a couple of years. We're a career-focused college. And on Emerging Ed Tech, I started this when I got to the school. I had not been in education prior to that, and I was very interested in the intersection of technology and instruction. How can technology really help? And I saw right away that it's very quickly overwhelming when you start thinking about it. There's so many tools, so many things you can do. What are the things that really matter? And it's been a lot of fun, and we have a good kind of discussion out there. We have about 4 articles a week sharing all kinds of perspective on different tools and techniques to leverage technology in the classroom. I also, in my most recent post, was inviting guest posts. I love posts from teachers. They're the best thing, right? We want to hear from each other about how we're using these things successfully in the classroom. We have a Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channel as well, so a lot of different ways to consume the content. The learning outcomes for this morning's session, the kinds of things that I'm hoping to help get across and share, understanding why it's more vital than ever that we engage our students and improve learning outcomes today, and gaining insights into many of the ways that today's emerging education and instructional technologies can help to facilitate and improve student learning, and learning about the growing body of evidence offering measurable proof that the use of these technologies, when carefully and methodically applied, can really produce clear gains in engagement, learning academic performance, graduation rates, and getting you excited about learning more about these over the next 2 days, especially if they apply to the iPad. So be sure to network while you're here and learn from each other. It's a great opportunity. And talk to these kids, these inspiring kids from the Franklin Academy. Great set of students. And we are tweeting, so if anybody likes to use Twitter, #TLiPad is the hashtag we are using out there. And let's go ahead and jump into it. And I want to start I want to start by talking about some of the challenges that we are facing today with education. Also, go down the code on Edmodo. It's really quick and easy to sign up for Edmodo, and then you got to go find where you join the group. And once you've seen that once, then it's easy to do further, and you can join the group where you can get access to these slides. The Prezi content is not there. I have a little bit of content come down and deliver the present, but then the rest of the slides are all there. So first, I want to talk about the mission of education briefly. So anybody want to, there's no wrong answers. What is the mission of education? Anybody? Lifelong learners. Excellent. Anybody else? Come on, you got some ideas, right? Any other thoughts on the mission of education?
Productive citizens.
Productive citizens. Excellent, and it's fantastic how there's common themes, and those come out right away. So if you click around to the websites of many of our fine institutions of education in this country, and even the DOE, although I should probably pull that off here, they echo similar sentiments. So they're saying things like promoting student achievement and preparing citizens to be competitive in the global economy, preparing students for post-secondary education, preparing our children for life in the 21st century. I like this one in particular. The crucial task of education is to teach kids how to learn, to lead them to want to learn, to nurture curiosity, sorry, it's a little bit off the screen on that one, to encourage wonder and instill confidence so that later on they'll have the tools for finding the answers. Now, of course, the bigger question is, are we succeeding? And unfortunately, there are some sobering statistics that say we could be doing a better job. Today in America, the intergenerational transmission of poverty is at its highest ever. If you're born poor in this country, you're more likely than ever before to die poor. And we're on a path to turn out the first generation in the U.S. that is not more educated than the prior generation, which is pretty shocking. I grew up in that environment where I always knew we had the opportunity to kind of even do better than our parents. And this is not something that's only affecting the lowest income areas. Here we have a quick slide that speaks to earnings across the board and how from the middle of last century until about 1980, there was a 7-8% consistent year-over-year gain in annual income. And from about 1980 on, it's just dropped off dramatically unless you're in the highest top 20% or the top 1% who, not surprisingly, have done the best. In addition to that, at the same time, there's a diminishing rate of growth in the attainment of higher credentials. Half of the students who start college in the U.S. are not completing a credential, and I don't remember the numbers offhand for completing, just getting through high school, but they're not nearly as encouraging as they should be. Come on, wait nice. So why is that happening, especially when we've got this encouraging information? I mean, here's the 2012 stats from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showing that if you complete your high school education and go on to college and get your degree, get an associate's degree, we see stepping up the ladder here, the chances of being unemployed decrease significantly, and your median weekly earnings increase significantly. So, the value is absolutely there for the college education. So we see this trend, right? Decreasing earnings, decreasing rates of earnings of credentials. Meanwhile, we're looking out to the future. We've got to prepare our students for the workplace of tomorrow. It's a fundamental goal of education. But as we look farther out, there's a lot of information saying, you know what? It's getting worse, not better. The gap is increasing. By 2020, we'll create 25 million new jobs in America. I apologize that slide over there is, you can't see the whole thing. To encourage you to go out to Edmodo and I'll pull up the slides that will be following. So 23 million new jobs, 32 million replacement jobs. 85% of these new jobs are going to require a post-secondary education. And here we have the McKinsey Institute saying, yeah, there's going to be about 1.5 million fewer graduates than we need in the workforce in 2020. So we've got fewer degrees, lower earnings, a growing gap in skilled employees. What can we do about it? How can we solve this problem? Well, it's obviously, I think we all know it's complex, but there's no doubt that education plays a huge role in the whole process. And why are we struggling in education? Well, a number of reasons. Cost, right? We've heard a lot about higher education. There's a lot of pressure from the government coming down about lowering costs in education. So we see a lot of articles talking about a college degree may not be worth it, but we saw this slide from just, the 2012, last year, showing absolutely the value proposition is still there. Now granted, if you're going to go to a very expensive education and you're not college and you're not really sure what you want to do with your life, maybe that's not the best idea, and you got to think about it. And it's healthy that we're having that conversation, but for the most part, the value is absolutely still there. And when costs are going up, here we even have Educo as a premier organization focused on technology and higher education saying, Availability and convenience is a huge issue. Many of our college students need to work while they're pursuing their degrees, so we need those things to be convenient, and of course that idea of online education is beginning to permeate lower and lower grades as well. So we have the disruptive nature of online education coming down the line. Preparation is huge, right? We have students coming into college that just are not adequately prepared. And we're very thankful for institutes like Franklin Academy and many K-12 institutes and high schools that are really doing a good job of this. But a lot are not quite where we need them to be, so there's no shortage of articles. When I prepared this material originally and I started looking for content like this, it was frighteningly easy to find. So there's a lot out there about we're not getting students in adequately prepared, and then persistence becomes an issue. So the graduation rates, as we talked about at the beginning, they're just not where they need to be. And of course, personalization, differentiation of education, these are some of the other elements that are not there to the degree we'd like them to be, and that tools like technology really start to make possible. So information technologies are being used to address these challenges in classrooms every day in many different ways, and the body of evidence that says it works keeps growing. I just want to emphasize again, the evidence keeps growing. So let's take a look at that. And in fact, I hope that leaves you thinking, tell me more. So personalized and differentiated learning solutions, mobile devices and apps, flipped classrooms, social learning tools, gamification, adaptive learning tools. I could go on and on. These are just a few of the types of technologies that are being used successfully in the classroom, and we're beginning to see measured results showing that these can enable students to take more control of their own learning and enable teachers to more easily differentiate and personalize their learning, and ultimately improve learning outcomes. So where's the proof that this is the case? Well, the evidence is growing every day, and I have a few different, I actually have quite a few slides here, probably more than we'll get to within the next 15 or so, and I encourage you to be able to leverage the content. The daily links at the bottom are links, and the links become kind of in this slide format, but if you pull them down, you can click out to the source articles discussing these things. So we've got some cases where I'm going to talk about some institutions that have really gone full bore, and they've either designed themselves from the ground up or really, they've refreshed their whole process to incorporate technology. But then we've got some scaled down things, because it's very important to know that. I can't overemphasize. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to change your school. Start with your classroom. And so we've got some examples here talking about different implementations of different types of technologies and measured results showing that it can be very effective. Carpe Diem Collegiate High School out in Colorado is a great story. They designed themselves from the ground up around technology, and back in 2010, when they were first doing some of the measures, they were very excited to share that they managed to achieve having 92% of their students performing at proficient or better versus these other stats for the county and the state at large. And they did this by increasing the student achievement with an innovative technology-enabled blended learning approach. They designed their school from the ground up around the student, not the bureaucracy. They embrace the fact that today's student is wired, and this is just one of the things they tap into as to help achieve their goal of creating a more positive, enriching, empowering experience for students. And they've taken the classroom model and evolved it so students start their day with a personalized learning program, and then they spend the second half of their day in the class reinforcing and applying what they've learned and working closely with teachers and other students. They embrace individualized learning, incorporate many adaptive techniques to enable students to move at their own pace, and it helps teachers identify the gaps that need to be filled in their learning. And subject mastery, not course completion, is Carpe Diem's touchstone. So, in addition to technology, there are a lot of other evolving ideas about outcomes-based learning, this idea of subject mastery. So it's not just about getting through the class, it's about really mastering the material. And these things all are facilitated in some cases through technology. Mooresville Graded School District here in North Carolina has done a very good job. They wrote a whole new program in 2007, their digital conversion approach, and this document was crafted based upon the idea that the integration of technology and professional development of student-centered approach students succeed. So a technology-rich, relevant curriculum and effective delivery of the curriculum are foundations to addressing diverse 21st century learners. 21st century content is integrated into core content areas. Every student is successful. This is one of their themes. Every student is successful when provided high expectations and sufficient support, and that's certainly an inspiring theme. And while they drove much of this approach with technology, it was just used to facilitate these objectives, and that's important. I never want to try and put the idea out there that technology is an end-all and be-all. It's just a tool. It's a matter of how we use it. So some of their impressive results at about $7,100 per year per student. They're ranking 100 out of 115 districts in terms of cost per student, yet they were second in graduation rates at the time this article was written, and third in test scores across the state. So quite a few impressive statistics up there. I won't run through them all. Now drilling down to the idea, okay, well those guys, they radically overhauled their entire environment, and that takes quite a bit of commitment. Here we have a focused study that came out of the UK talking specifically about the iPad as a tool in education. So we have 800 students at grade level 7 through 13, and you'll note that that second bullet can't be overemphasized, right? Considerable professional development was given to the teachers to help them understand ways to engage the students and leverage these tablets. The iPads were used throughout the school year, and then they administered some surveys in March and April to assess perceptions. When you're trying to measure these things, there's the significant, straightforward learning outcomes, grades, graduation rates, etc. But the perception is also very important. And so we see that an overwhelming majority of the teachers regularly use the iPads in their teaching. There was a high demand from both students and teachers to continue that use further. Teachers identified significant benefits for their workload and also identified cost savings. Students were more motivated using the iPads, and the quality and standard of pupil work and progress increased, and we're going to see some data that they generated from this. And here's one teacher. The iPads have revolutionized teaching in his or her perspective. So 77% of the faculty respondents felt that student achievement appeared to have risen since the introduction of the iPad. 73% of students, 67% of staff felt the iPad helped students improve the quality of their work. 69% of students that completed the survey felt that when using the iPad was motivating, they worked better with it and without it, and 60% of faculty felt the students were more motivated. So a very positive perceptions coming out of this, and definitely some measures of engagement that reflect that it was effective. So here we have some students, and if we combine with strongly agree, we've got 75+% there. Oh, sorry, it's about 65. So 2 out of 3 students saying they really felt they made better progress with the iPad. They think apps are helping in the learning, and that's about 75% there if you combine those 2 positive responses. And look at the strongly disagree, 1%. I mean, this was a win. This was enjoyed tremendously and appreciated by staff and by students and faculty. So we have another student response here. Oh, notice the teachers. So working with apps appears to be useful to my teaching. You've got about 60, almost 2 out of 3 again, and I'm happy to use the iPad regularly in my teaching. So very positive results coming out from embracing the iPad. And I just came across this article on Wired magazine, which discusses a school in Riverside, California, that conducted a study from spring of 2010 to spring of 2011, focused on an algebra application. They do mention that there's similar pilot courses and iPad programs cropping up all over the country, with more than 600, and this was back in 2011 when this was published, so I'm sure that number has grown considerably. More than 600 school districts have adopted one-to-one iPad programs. In terms of their results, the principal shares these observations that the iPad seems to help students better connect with the content, and students' interaction with the device was more personal. You can tell students were more engaged. And in terms of study results, they had 20% more students scoring proficient or advanced in subject comprehension after they went through this period of embracing the iPad and incorporating it into this particular algebra teaching. Flipped teaching. Yes, I'm an advocate of the idea of flipped teaching, although I will say now and repeat again that you don't have to reinvent your school. This is an extreme case here. These folks, Clintondale High School, they actually call themselves the Flip High School. I believe they're at fliphighschool.com on the internet. But they've done quite an impressive job, and they've really incorporated the idea. So their model of instruction says our students receive teachers' lectures at home. They won't video their lectures. You don't have to go to that extreme. You can start with much simpler approaches. but they had to run whole hog here, as they say. Our students work side by side with our expert staff. One-on-one time with students is up 4 times over years past. Test scores are up, and students are more engaged, and we're flipped out with the fabulous results. So speaking of results, they have a failure rate among freshman math students dropped from 44 to 13% in 1 year's time. Juniors taking the state math exams improved by 10% over previous years. So a lot of good results there. A couple other stories I have, and there's a few of these out on emerging ed tech. Here we have a teacher that was sharing a story with me, and the link is there, but that's there in the slide. Research was performed at a rural high school in America comparing the effectiveness of 2 delivery methods for algebra 2 and trig, and the flip can work across all areas of teaching, even physical education. It can really be leveraged in all areas. It's very easy to think of it first when you start to learn a little bit about it, because of the applied nature is lending itself well to math and science, which it does, but it can work very well in all of the academic disciplines. Teachers implemented a flipped classroom model with materials they designed and created. 250 video podcasts were made, and a large enough sample of students to compare lecture delivery model and the flipped classroom model. At the end of the second semester, students in the flipped delivery method had a GPA of 3.2 in their math class, and the students in the traditional method had a C+ average. Additionally, the percentage of students scoring an A was 50% versus 39% in the other class. So again, solid results, and there's more of them out there. Oh, this is an interesting one. A gentleman, and again, this goes to be isolated that on a small scale, you can see this working. So these folks had a class. It was a very large group. 850 undergraduate science students taking a required physics course. They taught both classes the same way for 11 weeks. Then for 1 week, just 1 week, they flipped the model, and class time was spent on problem solving and discussion for the flipped group, and content acquisition was left to be done just by reading. But the big difference was how they used the class time, which is the ultimate benefit of the flip, to me, from my perspective. And students in group 2 continued with the typical lecture delivery model, and then they gave a test at the end of the week, and the flip group did much better. So group 2 using the lecture delivery method had an average score of 41%, whereas group 1 had an average score of 74%. So significantly different. There are plenty of other examples out there like this. This website, Project Red, is a place where they share a bunch of these and gather them. It is a government-sponsored website, if I recall correctly. And they've got some stories out there that are interesting to give a different perspective. So here, Walled Lake High School, high achieving suburban school in Detroit, wanted to maintain academic excellence while saving some money. So it's a puzzle. We know that one of the most common applications of technology is to help lower costs. Superintendent chose to address these 2 roles by integrating online coursework on a large scale with the traditional brick-and-mortar district and across the district. And his analysis showed that cost per student went from $900 to $380, savings of 57%. And instruction became highly individualized in the process. Another example that casts another spin on this, and one of the potential benefits of engaging students effectively in the classroom is reducing discipline problems, which is certainly something that many of us have seen. So Parks Middle School, and this was quite a while back, 2001, they had an average of 3 police actions a day. In 2012, they launched a one-to-one laptop program supported by key implementation factors such as intervention classes, online formative and summative assessments, games and simulations, professional learning enabled by the principal. Again, we never overemphasize that. Without professional development, we're all going to struggle to do this stuff. In 2003, the number of police actions dropped to 3 or 4 in the entire year. So a very good example of how engaging with students can have this other little side benefit that can be very significant of decreasing discipline issues. These are just a handful of the examples of the studies that are out there, the reports that are out there. There's tons of these things, and there's more coming out every day. Of course, there's always the naysayers, and they're going to be out there, but if you dig in deeper, you're going to find interesting things. There was an article, I forget if it was the New York Times or the Huffington Post, that just came out a few weeks ago about USA Today. So they sensationalized this study that was not even complete. They interviewed somebody who came out and said, oh, the flipped classroom may not work, oh my God. And if you dug into it deeper, in fact, one of the participants the very next day responded on the Huffington Post saying they completely missed the ball here. And he talked about how the focus of the study was really to learn They were already doing a lot of the active learning, a lot of the hands-on things that the flip ultimately enables, and they wanted to learn a little bit more about the other part of it, just the video delivery, and what are some of the other benefits that might come out of it. So the point being that it's, the media loves to sensationalize things. That's how they get people paying attention. So whenever you see any of these naysayers, where are they coming from? But it's always important to look at both sides of the coin. So making it work. Well, I published an article not too long ago about some of the potential implementation pitfalls, and these are important things to be aware of and think about. So failing to secure senior administrator or executive level buy-in. This stuff applies at an organizational level in general, not just in education, although some of these are education specific, like forgetting to consider the student's perspective. Failing to involve faculty from the outset. I know you've all probably seen that, right? You get into instructional technology things and you're told, hey, by the way, you're doing this or you're doing that, and good luck with it. So that's absolutely wrong, and from the moment that institutions are thinking about leveraging technologies, they need to incorporate faculty in the process. Inadequate training, insufficient technical testing and validation, failure to incorporate training into onboarding for new staff and faculty. I've seen that at many institutions and organizations where they do this great effort of launching something and walk away from it and forget there's new people coming in the door every day. How do they learn this? If you can't just have dedicated training. You need something that's memorialized, something whether it be some slides, some videos, some kind of content that people can learn through self-paced. We're getting risk assessment, limited or no long-term planning. So just some of the things to avoid if you want to succeed. Here we have another article from Emerging in Tech where I had come across a good piece on Project Red talking about success factors and many of the key implementation factors that are linked most strongly to education success. And that's a real helpful list. We'll go through that in a second. But they also just mentioned that some of their observations that they see in those institutions where there are successful implementations consistently. I'm not going to spend too much time on those because we've got to wrap up at 9:15, right? And okay, so I'll go on to the last slide here, and then maybe there'll be a moment for a question or two. I thought this was interesting here. So, key implementation factors linked most strongly to education success. Intervention classes. Technology is integrated into every intervention class period. I have to confess, I'm not very knowledgeable about intervention classes. But the rest of this stuff, it strikes home with you. Change management leadership by the principal. You've got to have strong leaders. And we've seen that over and over again. It's certainly been the case at Franklin Academy. Online collaboration. Students use technology daily for online collaboration, games, simulations, social media. Core subjects. Technology is integrated into the core curriculum, weekly or more frequently. So again, these are the kinds of things that in this study that was done by Project Red about where are we seeing very successful implementations and what are the common factors that we're seeing in those implementations. And these are some of what they saw rise to the fore as those things that really seem to be happening pretty consistently in those implementations that succeeded. Core subjects. Technology is integrated into the core curriculum, weekly or more frequently. Online formative assessments. Student-computer ratio, lower ratios, improve outcomes, so they have having access to devices. Virtual field tips, using search engines regularly, and principal training. So principals are training in teacher buying best practices in technology transformed learning. So for those of you who might be administrators, some great ideas there to help make sure if you go down this road that you're going to be able to succeed. So there we have it. We must improve learning outcomes. We can improve learning outcomes, and I believe that we will. And that's why all you guys are here, because that's what's in your heart. You want to be able to do the best job and help these students succeed. So let's get out there and create our own success stories. Thank you, everyone, and feel free to use the other